All right. Welcome back to the Movie Well Marathon. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Mac.
And we are slowly wrapping up our obscure fantasy marathon. And we're on, almost forgot it already, Stardust. Came out July 29, 2007, directed by Matthew Vaughn, narrator Ian McKellen, adapted from
hmm
Stardust, it says here. Was it a book?
Yep. Well, Neil Gaiman, which
Oh,
is a complex name now.
that's right.
Yeah.
I did see that in the
Yeah.
credits, and I went, ooh, and then I went, oh. So
Yeah.
yeah, we don't have to touch on that right now. Not super important to the conversation.
Quick note. I loved Stardust before I knew Gaiman,
Yeah,
so like this to me is older than
yeah,
him, even though that's not really how it works. But we'll,
yeah,
we'll keep going.
yeah. Starring Claire Danes as, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Yavine.
Yeah, I think so.
Yavine.
Evane?
Yavine.
Evane?
Yeah,
I think it's
the star
Vane at
lady.
the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Charlie Cox as Tristan. Henry Cavill as Humphrey. Michelle Pfeiffer
Yeah,
as
I did not
Lamia.
recognize him. Even
I
rewatching the
That was
movie, knowing
amazing.
him as Superman, I did
Yeah,
not see him.
we're gonna talk about it. Mark Strong as Septimus. We've got Ricky Gervais in there for a second. Robert De Niro as Captain Shakespeare. That threw me. And honestly, a whole bunch of other names and faces. It's great. It's fun. Let's get
Mhm,
into it. So for me, much like the rest of this marathon, this is the first time I've seen this movie.
mhm.
So I was having fun with this one for sure. Um,
Good, good.
I will say I wasn't sure if this was like, bear with me. I wasn't sure if this was a real fantasy movie like Narnia, or if it was a fun like parody style like Ella Enchanted or Princess Bride. I could not
Sure,
decide
sure.
which it was until Robert De
Mhm.
Niro showed up as a bisexual sky pirate named Shakespeare, and I was like, oh, okay, I think I know which one it is now. But then that ended up being one of the sweetest, most wholesome moments of the whole
Mhm.
movie, and I was like, well, shit, I don't know what it is anymore. In the end, I don't care. It was really fun, and I had a great
Mhm.
time, and I really did enjoy it. I have I think, honestly, you're gonna love this. It brought out the kid in me because
Good.
I, I mean, I've been shitting on your marathon because you liked some dog awful movies. But when I was a kid I loved magic. And I love movies. So I got really into the rules. So it's
Mm,
just I got some nitpicks, like some fun ones, but I was like paying real
mhm.
attention to the magic. So that was fun.
Mhm.
Felt like a little one.
Mhm.
Um the aesthetic in
Yeah.
many places is really cool. I hated how much I
Yeah.
loved the mean redheaded witch's carriage. It's so Hufflepuff. It was beautiful, big and
It's
yellow.
great
It
courage.
was so nice.
The props, sets, and
Yes, yes. Uh
costumes
huh.
in this film are
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
It is very funny as well. The casualness of Daredevil's haircut, where it just goes from spiky short to just long, and he's just kind of looking at it. Like that was good stuff. That was very good. Um, Characters are fun. It's so I will say, it's pretty clear that this was directed by a man, and there are some
Mhm.
jokes that, of
Mhm.
course, are not my favorite. It could have done without.
Yeah.
But that's just me, and I'm going on and on. This is a movie you've seen. I imagine this is more near and dear to your heart. So let's have your thoughts.
Out of all the movies in this list, this is probably the one I've rewatched the most. Like a few of these were just like distant memories from my childhood. A few of them I'd seen a couple of times and still liked. And this one is one that I like I have this disc
Mm,
it like at home. I love this movie. And I will say it I do not think it is a perfect movie. Like my love for it is not the kind of love where I'm like, every single choice made by the,
sure,
creators of this
sure.
film are perfect. That's not really my vibe with this movie. I think I just love the sort of like the fact that it you can't really tell if it's like a fairy tale parody or a
Mm-hmm.
genuine fairy tale because
Mm-hmm.
it does like it follows all the rules that it sets up, which is very fairy tale-esque in the sense that like we introduce to you a series of situations. They have to resolve in a particular way. You're going to follow the story until the particular way is met by an unforeseen series of circumstances. Like that's very fairy tale. Um, but then it just kind of has like a strange mix of modern and period vibes
Mm-hmm.
where like it feel like sometimes it's straight up like a period movie, particularly the scenes in Wall, the
Yeah,
town,
yeah.
the whole like courtship and whatnot, and the whole like, I'm not a shop boy, I'm just the one who happens to work in a shop, and
Mm-hmm.
like the dialogue around all that is very period. But then every now and then, like the character interactions are very modern. And particularly with like I think the Pirates crew is where it gets the most
I know
casual.
that did
That
throw me a
and
tad, and I was
mhm,
the fact that that
mhm.
boat was like made of wood and metal. I was like, is this like a pan situation where this thing is like out of time? And I'm really glad it's not. But I was worried for a second, but it was all fine. It was all
Mhm,
fine in the end. No
mhm,
issues.
mhm. Well, and there's also like the world building is a bit funky where the magical kingdom of Stormhold exists. It seemingly in like a pocket dimension that can be accessed
Hmm.
from the wall or like particularly that gap in the wall,
Yeah,
but it also shares a sky with Earth. So like
I was trying not to think about that too
it's
much
a
because
little
that was
funky.
bothering me a little. I was like, because the witch said
Mhm.
it was a different universe, and the star can't exist the same in the other universe, but they're looking down on the same universe. So like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
Mhm.
a little strange. And then I know it's not this kind of movie, but I can't help but ask, why don't they just fix the damn wall? Who is this? Why
Yeah.
why is Grandpa Bucket standing there guarding the wall from a thing he doesn't even know? And why
Because
also
let's be honest,
why isn't there
he's
a
one
guard
of
on
the
the other
top
side?
5 things in this
He
movie.
is funny, yes, but it's like I think it's a fair, genuine question of why is there a gap in the wall? How did that
Mhm.
happen? Why isn't there a guard on the other side? And why is the guard on the human side just a dude who doesn't even know what it is he's guarding things from? You know, it's just
My guess, if we were to create any sort of like solid rule for this, it would be something as simple and potentially as annoying as it's a magic wall. Anything you try to do to change its nature will make it revert back to its original form. The reason there's not a guard on the other side, on the Stormhold side, is because Stormhold's not really bothered by the occasional human that wanders into Stormhold. But the Wall Town probably got pretty annoyed about losing their kids to the fantasy world of Stormhold because nobody ever comes back from it. So a human just stands there and makes sure none of the dumb kids get across and have babies.
okay, I suppose. I feel like that explanation works better when the wall is some sort of giant hedge or row of thorn vines or
Fair.
something. For it to be a brick wall that was made and the wall just doesn't want to
Do
be
you
fixed is bizarre.
do you know a lot about like Fae lore? I guess would be
I
the best way to call it, like the mythology around
I would
that.
say probably more than the average 28-year-old man, but a lot, no, probably not.
And this is actually kind of like a what I'm about to mention is kind of cross-cultural too. It's not just in sort of the Isles, Welsh sort of ideas. But border crossing is super significant
Mm-hmm.
in like the Fae mythology and whatnot. You cross a stream
Yeah, like
into a
the
territory,
toadstool
you cross a
circles,
wall.
fairy circle
Yeah,
things,
exactly.
rivers.
Um,
Yeah.
and like it's meant to be sort of like a when you cross a boundary, there's a clear line about where you were and where you now are. And a lot of the time that's used as a metaphor for like change or making irreversible decisions, that sort of thing. And it has eventually sort of migrated into its own magical status. And I think the reason that it is a low little stone wall is because it's meant to be like that sometimes it's unassuming. Like a
Mm,
big, massive henge would be noticeable. There's a ton of little stone fences all over the countryside in England.
fair. I don't want to get too hung up on it. I just thought it was funny that this is
Hmm.
such a big deal, but it also clearly isn't. But whatever.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
So
In my mind, it has always been the old man's personal goal and not like an official post set up
yeah,
by the town.
I got that vibe. So fine. But yeah, Prince Caspian, he runs over to
Yeah.
Diagon Alley farmer's market. Awesome, love it. The weird double elephant is creepy as heck, but cool. Um, I gotta say, I don't love Tristan's mom's judgment. You know, like you see a guy, random
Mm.
dude, you give him a flower, have your way with him, send him on his way. That's a little like he could have been crazy. You have no idea. She's a bit of a nut.
Post.
Um,
How much fun do you think she had being chained to a witch's like?
I don't really think that's a wonderful excuse there, Mac.
I don't know. Like, we are not told how long she is held captive by the witch. We just know that
Again,
she went missing.
granted, I'm not saying her life is peaches and cream, but
I
to
mean,
just
okay.
it's a random dude and she's like,
I can't believe this is what bothers you.
It's not, it doesn't bother me. I just think it's funny. It's like, hey, hi, cool kid. Like, damn. Anyway.
It's true. It is fast. It's very lax judgment on everyone's side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so. Skipping ahead to Little Daredevil. He's adorable. It is so funny now, though, with hindsight, to cast Daredevil. Not to say Charlie Cox isn't an awesome, badass, good-looking British guy, but to have Charlie Cox be the guy who is the real one, you know, the real one, and the pompous turd is Henry Cavill.
It's real
My
funny.
God, that is hilarious, and he is unrecognizable. They found a way to make him look unattractive, which is really really funny. So that part's great.
Genuinely, yeah. I think it's just the color combo,
He doesn't
like
look good
the kind of
blonde.
washed out hair and then like the mustache. Yeah, it's weird.
Skipping all the way to
Yeah.
the end where he winks at Robert De Niro, I was like, oh, I knew it. So that's fun. Victoria sucks.
Yeah.
There's a little
She
bit of
is one of the best examples I've ever seen of like casual human cruelty, like the way that
Yeah.
selfishness can make a person genuinely awful. Like there's not a thought in her head for anyone but herself the entire time she's on screen.
Yeah.
And like props to the actress because she really sells it. She never once genuinely cares about a person she's sharing the scene with.
Yep.
And it's believable and awful the entire time. It's great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She sucks. I was thinking to myself, like, the relationship between Tristan and his dad is so good and so interestingly healthy. Why is he not getting better dating advice from his father? And then I remembered how Tristan came to be, and I was like, he's not going to get any help from him.
Yeah, no, I actually, one of my notes is that, like, I think the combination of a single father and a son in a soft domestic world is a really unusual choice for fantasy. If you have a father-son combo and there's no, like, mother in the picture, typically it's like they're the last of their line and there's a huge amount of stress on them. It's like, you know, the king and the prince and they're trying to keep the kingdom together and, you know, it's a sign of distress. This one is just like positive, healthy little relationship. You can tell how Tristan's like raising how he was raised makes him the man that he is, both in the sense that he's not quite confident, but also in the sense that he is genuinely good.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really good touch because a lot of times, especially in fantasy settings, we can just be like, this character is the best. Why are they the best? Because I say they're the best. And in this one, we actually get a good explanation as to why the character genuinely has a good heart.
Well,
and
yeah. See, I would fully agree with you.
He's a little selfish. I'll give you that.
I fully agree with you. And then he wraps the magical death chain around a woman he meets, which I didn't love.
He's a little dumb.
I honestly, I really didn't enjoy that bit because it is early 2000s and, you know, but there's a lot of objectifying that was going on here.
There's a lot of moments where objectifying is probably a better word than I was going to use. I was just going to say, like, there's a lot of, I don't know, forced proximity is kind of what I was thinking of. And not in a, like, I think you can do forced proximity in a way that is genuinely interesting and good for the characters and doesn't necessarily speak to, like, sort of toxic habits. But this was a lot of, like, we want it to feel like, I don't know.
I think
like there's power dynamics happening.
Yeah, I think
it's
what
weird.
it is they being the male persuasion who made the movie, they think it's funny They are not thinking about how, in order to make this joke, in order for this to be funny, you have to be comfortable with objectifying women. Because it's funny that
Mm-hmm.
he wraps her in the chain and thinks of her as an object to give as a present. It's funny, ha 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 ha, because they're not thinking of them that way. Because it's in the story that he's going to give her the rest of the candle in order for her to get home. You could easily just
Mm-hmm.
write that, have them have that
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and go about the rest of the movie like that. But no, they wanted to include the joke where he wraps her up in that chain because it's just silly, because it's out of pocket, you don't expect it, and it's silly. Ha 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 ha. But it's only
Mm-hmm.
silly if you were comfortable objectifying her, which the character wouldn't do in this moment if he is meant to be such a sweet little baby boy as he is, and has met
True.
this person who is here in this crater. So, yeah. Speaking
Yeah,
of
I
that,
think it's
go
um
on.
like kind of on that note, just for a second.
Yeah.
I think the star's actress, I looked up real quick, Claire Danes. I
Hmm.
think she doesn't fix it, but kind of like addresses the moment in the way that the story doesn't. Like clearly, those who are like shooting the scene and the way that it's edited, you are supposed to find that bit funny.
Hmm.
But the distress that that character goes through is made very real by the portrayal of the character. Like I feel like if you're really watching her performance, you can see she is not having a good time. She
Hmm.
and I can't tell if that makes it better or worse because that means the actress was playing her part seriously and nobody thought, oh, hey, maybe we should consider this perspective.
Yeah.
Or if it is better because at least there's a bit of genuineness coming through from that perspective. I don't know.
I think it makes it worse because the rest of the movie is everyone is objectifying her because she's a goal. Like the witch wants her
Mm-hmm.
for eternal youth, and the princes want her because she's got the youth thing and the gem, and so and then the Victoria is expecting her as a wedding favor. So for Tristan to be there and just be like, if he didn't even register her as a thing and only ever thought of her as a person, I think that would add to the love story. Because the love story, as someone who hates love stories like this, isn't terrible. There's some sweetness and there's some genuine moments, and it's
Mm-hmm.
cool to watch them, become friends first and then grow to enjoy each other's company. It's a little cliche, but so such is life.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the worst thing ever. But I think there's
Yeah.
little moments that could have helped with that to not make it
Mm-hmm.
as problematic. And of course, do most people care? Probably not. But I'm, a gross woke feminist, and
I
I
think
will
you notice
comment on
it.
such
I
things.
think if you're watching this and you're genuinely like applying some critical thought, I think anyone really can notice it. And
I would hope.
because ultimately it's not subtle. It's not just the treatment of Yvain's character. It's kind of like most of the female characters
Hmm.
in this film have a moment where they act in a way that is preferred by the male characters or
Yeah,
maybe even the male audience, and
hardcore,
that is
because all of the women
yeah.
are either evil or slaves or bimbos or
Mm.
dead or yeah. So it's
Mm-hmm.
there's some not greatness about certain
Mm-hmm.
aspects of this movie, but again, it's like what 2007. So
Yeah.
how much are you expecting? Um, where I was going before, when we talked about him immediately meeting this person and then being okay objectifying her, Tristan is a little too quick to accept magic, I would say. Even for the
Agreed.
time period they're in, I would have liked a little bit of holy shit. I just teleported to a crater and met a star. He's like, oh, you're the star. Ugh, silly me. He's like, I'm sorry.
Duh.
I'm sorry. You're cool with that? You're just gonna roll with that? Because honestly, if I were there, I'd think the necklace was the star. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
would have thought. But hey, that's
Mm-hmm.
just me. I haven't been, through a magic portal. Um, there's a lot of accepting of things really, 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 really quick. Let's see here. Stargirl is cool. Interesting take on that. Before that, honestly, the king dying scene with the princess is pretty funny, and the ghost princes
Yeah.
might be my third or second favorite thing of the whole movie. because that ongoing
I
joke is
go
great.
back and forth on them, but I do think ultimately they're a good addition to the film. I think occasionally they can be a little distracting, but for the most part, it's hilarious to have this additional perspective of all the people who tried to become king and died along the way, watching the final battle for who's going to take over. And of course, it's the nobody that nobody even knew existed that actually wins the day.
Mm.
That's a fun take on it. I like it.
So I did have a slightest little bit of another issue with that if we were to, complain again with broken record. I thought it was interesting how that one priest guy talked about the one brother being a benevolent king, and that would have been interesting. Turns out he was a unobservant idiot too, so that kind of sucked. For the heir to be Tristan and not his mother is gross. I don't really care what you want to say about your fantasy world. I don't give a shit. It's gross. You live in a world where you can harness lightning, unicorns exist, and magic can do almost anything. People can turn into animals, and they're still sexist. That's such a bummer, dude. That's such a bummer. Because
Yeah.
here's the weird thing about that too. The movie gives us a fucking sky pirate who is at least into drag. At most, I don't know if they wear this. At most, he's like they, or maybe trans, bisexual, full on gay. It's not made clear. But so like he's they. So I don't know. I'm gonna say Robert De Niro's character, Shakespeare. Shakespeare is an amazing character, a great character in the movie, a supportive character, the character that trains Tristan to be a badass, teaches the star to dance, encourages their love
And
stories.
honestly,
there's
he single-handedly improves their love story
Yes!
situation because he makes it about her.
Exactly!
He makes
So,
it about her.
Yes, there's a little bit of potential LGBTQ representation in this movie. So like this movie isn't blind or ignorant to these things and is still like, yes, you woman, you existed just to give birth to the other heir. Because even though you were a bird slave for 18 years and who knows what else, and now you're safe and free and all this other shit, you're not gonna be shit for the rest of the movie. You're not going to be queen. You're not going to be the princess. You're going to be nothing. That's gross.
Well, you know what's even crazier? I don't know if you caught the naming system, but Una is 1. I think she's the oldest.
I was paying attention to the numbers. I did not catch where she fell into it. That's even worse. That's even worse. See, here's the. I like the movie. Okay, I like the movie, but it is borderline problematic.
Yeah.
Let's get back to some
I
positives.
see it every time I watch it. This is the experience of watching Stardust for me, and I don't know why I still like it. I think it's just the uniqueness of it, and like some of the bits in it are genuinely hilarious or genuinely creative. You don't really see it anywhere else. The performances are fun, but like there's a lot of moments where it's just sort of like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
I guess if you say so.
Right. There are too many boob jokes. Okay.
Yeah.
There's too many. So yeah. But try to get back to some positives here. Nope, I lied. Nope, I didn't lie. We're just positives. Michelle Pfeiffer as the badass witch lady is pretty cool. Her magic is a little inconsistent. Which that's one of those magic things I was paying attention to that bothered me. She turns a guy into a goat, hand shrivels. She cursed a woman, hand shrivels. She turns a goat into a man, and a goat into a man, and then into a woman, and then summons an entire inn, and fixes a star's broken leg. Nothing. Not a blemish. Not even a gray hair. Nary a gray hair. So that was a little bit much. They didn't even try to attempt to make it look like it was an illusion. It very clearly isn't. So that was a bit silly. You could have had her like fingers shrivel instead of her whole goddamn arm when she turned a guy into a goat.
Well, that's where I was gonna go. Like, to take the whole arm on the first go was the mistake. Like, you just need like a spot to appear, or like a wrinkle or something, and then you can scale yourself for the whole film. But to have one transfiguration suddenly take like a whole limb of youth, that it's a significant issue. That's too quick.
That's quite a bit. I feel like that's an interesting approach to magic in general that I don't necessarily love, because eating the last little bit of the star was supposed to return her youth. She's a witch who uses magic. It's strange that using the magic would deteriorate the youth, because later, when she's an old, wrinkled hag again, she's using magic, no issue, and she's not getting any older. It's like a story device they wanted to use, which is all good and fine, but it really doesn't make any sense when you think about it in the grander scheme of things, which is weird to say because there are no rules to magic.
Yeah, I usually think of it as sort of like a low power situation where, like, when you have the energy of a star, you have like a vast bank of power that you can use to create significant change in the world at a whim. When you're on low battery mode, you still have star power, but you're using it to prevent essentially aging any faster than you're currently aging. Like, they've been alive for hundreds of years. And it sounds like the last star was at least 100 years ago. 400 years, I think that was the number. Yeah, I think that was the number. So, like, when you get a bit of that power, I think it's like a little bit intoxicating, which is why she kind of like went all out at first, and then they immediately slapped her with the consequences, which we just mentioned. It was too much, too many consequences too fast. And then I think the idea of her still having, power when she's sort of like worn down is communicating that she still has access to magic like that when she's on like low power mode, but it uses up her lifespan faster. The thought is, if she doesn't use it now, she doesn't get a star and she doesn't live longer than maybe another 50 years.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's see what else. Yeah, so the end sequence, I would say, I expect better of the unicorn, because it does realize that things are afoot, but very late, I would say. I expect a great deal of, I don't know, wherewithal from unicorns, and this unicorn let me down. I'll be totally honest with you.
No, I agree. A unicorn that allows her to just walk into an inn after a clearly, like, that's a witch. If you know what you're looking at when you see a star, you know a witch. Or at the very least, again, unicorns are associated with innocence and purity.
Yes.
So when we find the star, it's an innocent, pure character, and the unicorn helps her because of that. And then when you encounter the witch, who is clearly an embodiment of things that are rotten and evil and of death, the unicorn should know that.
Should have felt the disturbance in the force, because it clearly does. That's why it goes and helps Tristan. There's no way for it to know otherwise. So, unicorn is slacking. Kind of makes up for it when it kills the goat. But still, I expect better of said unicorn. Let's see here. What else? I mean, you got some positives or some negatives you wanna dish out?
Let's see. The cast.
Oh, yes.
Love the cast. Great cast. There's a lot of like set pieces that are kind of fun and thoughtful, or just like straight up jokes. Like the inn at the very end of the film that they spend their night in.
Butchered Prince.
Yeah, the slaughtered prince.
Slaughtered Prince.
Yep. And then they're all just kind of like sitting, hanging out there. I find it. I like the fact that they pair the star and the stone so that everybody's after the same thing, except they're not really after the same thing, and nobody in the two groups talks to each other like the whole time. Imagine if Septimus had talked to the witch and they like had an alliance, because that would have been terrifying, honestly. Yeah. Although I will say, I do feel like this film has like 3 endings, and I think it would have been better to consolidate them a little bit, because we have the like, they make it to Wall and he goes across and tells Victoria that he's not into her anymore, and then he finds out that Elaine can't cross the wall, and that's, not that he knows she's going to, but I'm guessing he's just like, I absolutely cannot let that happen in case it's going to happen. And there's this moment at the wall, and then we have to go chase him down at the witch, and we have the huge confrontation with the witches. And then we find out about the inheritance, and then we have the coronation sequence. There's kind of like several endings stacked on top of each other there at the end, and it makes it feel like it stretches out a little bit.
Maybe a tad.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't necessarily have cut any of those things. Like, the scene with Victoria and Humphrey is fantastic, and the coronation scene is a very nice parallel to the way that the story kind of opened with the narration. And the witch confrontation scene, like, you gotta have your magic fight. You can't not have a magic fight.
Very true. And the fight, honestly, in the end is pretty dope. When she brings Septimus's body back with the clay figure.
Yeah.
That's dark, that's spooky. It's, I will say, if, depending on what else was in the movie, the tone of that is a little bit all over the place. Though at that point in the movie, the tone is consistently light. But for the evil witch to fight the young prince with the corpse of the guy she just killed, that is dark. But then the spirit of that guy is sitting there watching it happen. And it's just so fucking funny.
He's exchanging looks with his brothers like, it's not me.
Yeah. I love how once they die, they're all just like on the side of Tristan in the end, because they're like, he wins, like, yeah, ooh, yeah. It's just, it was funny, but it's a wild ride, man. It's a wild ride.
Oh, okay. Completely unrelated. Funny little bit. The merchant that the captain sells,
Ricky Gervais.
First off, he's funny, like, almost every time you put him in something, and particularly when he's doing his little character bit where he never finishes the sentence. But
the negotiation is one of the funniest scenes. Yeah.
Well, the one where he's talking to the witch and she's just like,
oh yeah,
enough. And then he just squawks like a chicken for his next two scenes. And the way he like responds to it is so funny.
It's great.
It's confused.
Yeah.
He tries again. Confusion and despair kind of sets in a little bit. He sits down. He tries again.
I was losing it during the negotiation, the haggling. It was like 200. I can do 150. 200. It's like I could 175 is highest. I'll go cool. 200. It's like 195. Like, yeah, all right, 195. And with sales tax, that brings it up to 200. Like, it was just, I don't know why. I was losing it. It was, I'm not doing it justice. Something about the scene itself just had me rolling.
That man had like 5 minutes in that film, and he killed his role.
Yeah, I think Shakespeare is my favorite character, and the pirate stuff was my favorite bit of the movie. So, yeah. Your favorite is Ricky Gervais's character?
Well, I think that's what I was referencing, in the sense that he, like, I don't even know why you would hire him for that role, in the sense that, like, it's not worth necessarily his time, although this is pretty early on. Maybe it wasn't a big part of his career. I don't really know where his timeline is. But it's every single scene he's in the film, he's kind of owning the stage. I kind of feel the same way about Shakespeare, in the sense that, like, he figured out his character and committed to his character consistently through the scenes that he's in. And I think he's a great addition to it. And he's kind of like what you were saying about the whole, is this classic fantasy, is this more parody fantasy, that sort of thing. He kind of clarifies the question a little bit, but at the same time, the level of lighthearted sincerity that they give the character also, makes it feel kind of legitimate, and that's nice too.
Yeah, it was really nice. It reminded me of Our Flag Means Death, if you've seen any of that. Especially when he opens up the closet, and I was just like, Blackbeard was like, fuck off, because it was so cool. But yeah, that's good stuff. Harnessing lightning was badass as hell. Like, just this world is pretty cool. There's no sense to it, but hey, that's magic.
I think that's pretty typical of, like, Gaiman fiction, like his
I suppose
style,
so.
which I
I
don't know if we want to talk about that because then it gets
well, yeah,
complicated
I was gonna
fast.
say
But
I don't exactly want to go and support or defend Neil Gaiman given the current state of
no.
things. Um, and I don't know a lot about his work, to be honest. I enjoyed Good Omens. I'm probably the biggest fan of his work, like Swamp Thing comics and the Sandman. And with the Sandman, it's like there's like universes or pocket realms connected to ours that are created almost through thought and concept, which when the rules are like that, it can be just about anything. When you get into the groundedness of a Narnia style or Spiderwick style or, even I don't know, Talo or Kunlun, where it's just like there's a point, there's a doorway to another world, that implies to me that there's got to at least be rules for that world. And there doesn't really quite seem to be. Like this isn't a world of thought. Because they
Mhm.
use different words too, it's confusing because like you said, the stars look down on the same world, but the witch
Mhm.
refers to a universe. So is it like a convergence of reality at one point, and that's the only, like, through that wall is the only way you can access it? Like, what happens if you hop over the wall? Does the wall end? Like,
This is kind of what I was talking about when I was talking about like
mm,
fairy lore, because you have to approach understanding magic like this and fantasy like this not from a scientific standpoint, but from a metaphorical standpoint.
mm-hmm,
Things won't make sense in terms of like power scales, I guess. Like you're not going to find an underlying physics in the world of Stormhold. What you are going to find is sort of like amplified meaning into reality changing effects. So, like, the reason a star has so much energy is because they're far and distant and perfect and shining. And the reason why, a star is at her greatest power when she's happy is because it's a metaphor for how people shine when they're
sure,
happy. Like,
sure.
you have to kind of apply literary lenses to all of it rather than scientific lenses to all
I
of it.
I
Not
understand.
that it all necessarily aligns all the time, but it is going to always be focused on what it's trying to say rather than
Right.
like the world it's trying to create.
I can understand why one would say such a thing, but I reject it. I reject your concept. I reject your premise because there are, especially with fairies, I would say, bring it back to the fairy lore, which I think is an entirely fair comparison given where we are geographically in the human world. But like with the Spiderwick Chronicles and other stories that are similar to that, the Fey world exists almost like in a fourth dimensional way in tandem with ours. And then
Hmm.
sometimes like just a bubble outside of it where they've created a space that is just for them. But you cross over that barrier and you bleed into their world. Their world bleeds into ours. You cross the fairy circle and you might poof into theirs or bring them into ours. But that's almost a version of magic that is just full on a force of nature, and there are creatures, spirits, or animals that exist within it. In this particular case, the world of what is it called? Stormhold?
I think it's Stormhold.
Stormhold? Stormhold is just Earth with magic because Shakespeare has been told stories of England as if that is fantasy. They have jobs, they have bartering, they have money, they have inns, they have commerce, they have people that don't have magic, they have people that do have magic. It's just a functioning world. And humans, to some people, are its own mythology. There's like, they mirror each other in a way. And this wall is this weird point that at most we get a funny action sequence where an old man kicks another man's butt with a stick. Like there's no addressing it. And the star thing just confuses it because if you're on the human side of the wall and you fly up into the air, do you see that town across the hill? Probably not. But like if you are up in the air and you fly over to that side of the wall and you land on that field and you walk towards the wall from the other side, what happens? I don't know. They don't explain it. And it's honestly it's worse for me even from a magical point. I'm going to critique Faye that it's a
Oh,
wall
that's a
and
good
then
idea.
a bit of a field and then some trees, but it's not like a wall that goes right into like the forest isn't right up against the
Mm,
wall. Like you know what I mean? Like there's
mm.
not like though there was always the magic wall and then humans in their superstitious ways or their fearful ways they built their wall. They wanted some sort of sense of control. And the stone wall doesn't have anything to do with anything. You know, like I
Yeah.
just, I understand and I can appreciate when you're like, you have to apply literary lens, there are no rules, and so on and so forth. But this movie is applying rules. There are rules. There's only one way to enter this except for a
You,
magic
but
candle, and
see,
then things get all willy nilly, and it's just whatever we want it to be. And it is like so
but
the
I think you're still approaching it from sort of like a like you're looking for the underlying laws of the world and how it functions from a scientific lens. You're like, if this is true, then this must be true because of the physical space that it inhabits. But we're not talking about physical space. We're talking about how fairyland and crossing borders is a metaphor for the unknown and how leaving home is going into a world that will be strange and unusual but also pretty similar. Like, let's apply this logic to maybe traveling from England to the Middle East. Like, you're going to encounter things that are strange and bizarre. You don't understand. There are going to be rules that you're expected to follow that you don't know. There are going to be things, there are going to be people who trick you and people who help you. But when you look up, there are still stars at night. So like it's meant to be a metaphor for about how like growing up, going out, becoming your own person and kind of coming into your own. It really doesn't matter like the wall and the specific spot. There's a person trying to protect them from going through the wall because change is dangerous or you might not come back. But like, hey, he doesn't come back and it's a good thing. So like
mm-hmm,
maybe the person who was guarding the wall had the wrong perspective.
mm-hmm.
There's a whole bunch of things to look at it, and I don't think you're supposed to look at it from like a this
Oh,
is a Narnia
I know you're
situation.
not
This is
supposed to do
a
any of this, okay? I get that.
Okay, but then you can't be mad at the story
I'm
for not
not
holding to things that you're not
mad.
supposed to hold it
I'm
to.
not mad. I see a lot of effort and thought was put into how this world works from a human point of view. But I feel like if there was thought put into how this world works from a magic point of view, we don't get to explore it a whole lot. And I don't think the movie would have been hurt if we did. That's all I'm saying. Because
Mm-hmm.
you have instances where it's not just the Fae, and it's not Narnia, and it's not Spiderwick. You have Neverland. It's this pocket world as its own. There are ambiguous borders where you can still have people like sky pirates and mermaids and Indians, or I'm sorry, indigenous, and you can have things, but there are limits to it. We cross this border, this wall, into England. Like we're just in England, like because it's just roaming endless hills of the exact same thing with a completely different, essentially race of people that exists, but they are not a part of Earth. So it's like there's like two worlds that take up the same space, and there's this one point where you cross, and it's just there might have been thought put into it, and I like when we kind of explore how that works because you want to say that the star looks down on both worlds, but if the star crosses the wall, it turns to a stone. But how can that be when the star can easily exist, supposedly, on the other side? So what is the significance of the wall? You've put significance on the
Because
wall.
if if the star had landed on the England side of the wall, it would have never been a person. If the star lands in Stormhold, it's a person.
I'm gonna stop you right there because that's weird. Because that that doesn't make any damn sense. Because that's saying that the magic fully exists on either both sides or the human side. Because when a star falls to Earth, it's not a star. but she very much is a star. She's not space rock. So no, I reject that. I reject
because one is the world of stories and dreams, and the other is like the reality. So
Yes,
it
but
matters which one she falls into and what her experience is. Even because, like, let's add some scientific logic to this and say, had the star fallen on England's side and just been a bunch of rocks, it really wasn't a star at all. It was just a meteor that made it to the ground. Then it's meteorite, right? I'm not sure which one's which.
it is a
Anyway,
meteorite when it hits the ground.
perfect. But because it was a falling star in quotation marks that landed on the side of Stormhold, it is a person with experiences living as a star. But we don't really, she doesn't have a family. She doesn't have,
That we
like,
know
she kind of
of.
has a home. And true, and maybe this is a fault of the writing of the female characters. But
Hmm.
but like if we're trying to apply a sort of rules system, like a, for lack of a better word, a sort of like magical physics laws, what's happening here, meaning wise, is a falling star could be something genuinely magical and interesting and an answer to a wish. Because let's be honest, if we had actually married Victoria, we'd be very unhappy.
Hmm.
So it's an answer to a wish for true love, and that can happen in the metaphorical
Excuse
world,
me.
but that could never happen in the England world.
Okay, fine. Then where we're gonna end is I don't like the rules of the wall because they don't make sense and they drive me nuts and it's a little bit weird. Because if you're in a plane and you crash, but you started on the human side, what does that mean? Can you throw a football into the wall and the
Yeah,
football becomes a
no.
person? Whatever. It's
It's
dumb.
still, you're still thinking of it
Fine.
as like
You
a
know what? Fine.
scientific
Fine. Fine.
question.
Fine. 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 I'll stop. I'll have a different complaint. I don't think that Stardust is a good title for the movie. I think it should be like Starheart.
Really?
Yes, because Stardust doesn't come into it until the very end. The only person that says Stardust is Victoria, and it's the thing we don't want to happen is her to turn to Stardust.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Starheart or the heart of a star, that would be better. Stardust sounds cool, but I
Mm-hmm.
do think honestly it implies more science fiction. Dare I say it?
Okay.
And I think that while it's cool, it does not do this movie justice to call it Stardust. It'd be like calling a
Interesting.
movie. This is gonna be a really bad comparison. I'm really sorry, but this would be like calling a movie about Jesus crucifixion. Like you don't want that to happen, so no. Okay. Oh, I'm
um,
sorry. Okay, let me think of a better one. It's a story about a dude you don't want to die, and you call it Coffin. How about that? Is that better?
no, I do kind of see what you're saying. Like most of this is very Neverland Tinkerbell kind of
Yes, a
vibes,
little
and
bit.
the title is equivalently like it's like
Pixie dust.
pirates or
Yes.
something. Like, it feels like it's technically related, but kind of feels like an off title. I would, I think I probably just sort of justified it in my head for long enough that this is how I think about it. I don't necessarily think that there is a way to prove that this was an author's intent, unless I were to read the book, which I've never done. But to me, Stardust not only kind of provides a fun turn point where like we know that Tristan is after a star once the story gets started. And we know that the whole story is about getting the star. Everybody wants the star. Now, technically, Septimus and the other princes want the stone that the star has, but it's equivalent to the same thing as like hunting the star. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants the star. And then, but we don't really know where the dust part comes in. When we find out that if she crosses the wall, she becomes dust or, rock, it's suddenly a negative thing. It's like a turning point in the story or literature. It's almost like a plot twist sort of
Mm-hmm.
situation. And I thought that was kind of fun. I also think Stardust has a general cultural meaning.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the idea of like we are all Stardust has been
Right.
around long enough that it kind of contributes to the fact that we meet a bunch of different characters and get a bunch of different perspectives over the course of
Okay.
the story. And it kind of feels like they're applying, again, because the metaphor of the star being brightest when she's happy and taken care of is meant to apply to
Of
everybody. We are
course.
happiest when we are taken care of by others.
And when we're in
And I think that
love.
and when we're in love. So, yeah, true love is supposed to bring about positive things. So, to me, the title Stardust has been not only kind of like a fun hook for the narrative where it kind of like
Sure,
changes
sure.
things, but also kind of a reference to the fact that even though this is kind of Tristan and Yvain's story, it is also about all the other characters and
Yeah.
their stories and their desires in it.
I like that. I like that analysis. I genuinely do, but I'm a hater. And so I think, and maybe it's different in whatever book or more likely comic or graphic novel that Gaiman made. It's just from purely the movie, Stardust, it only becomes relevant because Tristan does something I think is kind of gross, which is take a lock of her hair to give to Victoria as a fuck you, but it's still weird to do that. And
Fair.
it prompts Victoria to say it only the one time, and I Tristan doesn't need to learn, again, just from what we see in the movie. He does not need to learn that she cannot cross the wall because he doesn't get back in time to save her anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
the people that know and the people that can stop it are the ones that do, and that's, I think, in that at least sequence, that's all that matters. So I appreciate the sentiment of what you said as far as it applies to all of us, but the movie is also illustrating that it doesn't, because other people can go back and forth between. It's not even that the people from that world can't cross the wall, because Tristan can, because he's from that world. So people
True.
can go back and forth.
Technically.
So I think there is potential, and there's great meaning in your analysis. I don't think the movie deserves that analysis.
I think that's fair. Again, this is a movie that holds charm for me, even though I
I
am
see the
very
charm.
aware of its flaws.
I see the
So,
charm, and
yeah.
the name itself,
Hmm.
Stardust, is cool. It's cool as heck. It's just when
Hmm.
Victoria says it, and I do the CinemaSins roll credits, not hatefully. I understand CinemaSins is not
Hmm.
exactly everyone's favorite thing these days either. I was like, really? That's where we get the roll credits from Victoria? That kind of blows. I was kind of hoping, Ian McKellen might have said something either in the beginning or in the end. They became
Hmm.
together Stardust. Like that would have been that would have been beautiful, because I think the ending, I was at first, like, as it was going, I was like, ah, man, they're gonna pull an Aragorn and not an Arwen because he's gonna die. But then I was like, wait a minute. And then he's like, yeah,
It is
because
he who
because he
has
has the
possession of
heart,
the heart of
the heart of a
star.
star. I was like, oh, you cheeky bastards, that's pretty cool. I like that magic rule. That was very sweet.
Hmm.
And then they go back up into the sky together. That's lovely. So yeah, there's charm, there's fun. It's great to see them learn to waltz on a pirate ship, that's run by Robert De Niro, is great, and the sisters all dying in horrible, tragic ways is great, and that little yellow carriage is great. Um, yeah, there's lots to love,
You
but
really love the
I
carriage.
do, I do. You just need to add some plants. Another nitpick. She clearly turned him into a sugar glider, and they're like, "But you
Hmm.
were a mouse." No, he wasn't. That was not a mouse. That wasn't even a rodent. I don't think it might have been a rodent.
That might be a Reddit. It looks like a
But
Reddit.
but it's not a mouse. Excuse you. So yeah, that's just about our time. I'm sorry I spent so much time complaining about how the borders of the magic
I
and the real world do or don't exist.
I think it
Um,
resulted in an interesting conversation,
I
so I
think
don't
so
feel like it
too.
was
I think
wasted
so
time.
too. But I would say, just because I can look into the future right now, and I can almost tell you what I think about next week's movie, because I may or may not have seen it. This has been my favorite one of the entire marathon,
Okay.
easily. It's fun. It is cute. It is hilarious. There's some not entirely boring action. There's just
Hmm.
there's some blatant misogyny and some
Hmm.
subtle sexism and some
Hmm.
not great use of women's anatomy and a really
Yeah.
stupid unicorn. And I think those things could be improved upon. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm wanting from this fantasy movie.
It
Um
really, really could use a woman's touch in the
oh,
behind the scenes bit,
no
you know?
kidding. I was thinking though, I do think it passes the Bechdel test because of the number of witches we have.
It does.
It does.
I
Just
and
barely.
because they talk about the star who is
Yes.
female. Now,
Yes.
arguably, they are objectifying her rather than talking about her as a person, but
Yes.
they are not talking about a man. So,
So it technically passes. Yep.
man, isn't it sad how few movies pass the Bechdel test? And the
It
Bechdel
is.
test is such a low bar.
It is. It's
Like
really low.
for a minute, you know, when first learned about the Bechdel test, I was like, well, okay, let's make sure this is fair. Let's reverse it. Let's apply it to men. How often are men having a conversation that does not relate to a woman?
Almost all the
It's all the
time.
time,
All the
man.
time.
It's all the time.
Yep. Almost all the time. Because, you know, if you remove Princess Leia, there's not a single moment that any of the characters in Star Wars are talking about a woman. Not once.
Well, all right. On that exciting
Yes,
note.
on that note, I will say this is a whale. I will watch this one again unprompted. I had a lot of fun with it.
A whale with a few blemishes on her side.
Oh, yes, some barnacles. There's some barnacles on the fins, but it's not egregious. It's just not, it's aged. You know, it's not aging like fine wine. It's aging like flat soda.
Well, and I feel like a lot of it is in the humor that they take time away from the energy and movement of the story to make the joke, which makes them stand out more than they would if it was just like a part of the story. So it's rough rewatching sometimes, but the story is, I think the heart of it is still charming. I like the originality of it. I like the way that it takes sort of like old fantasy or fairy tale
Sure.
tropes and uses it in a new way. Um, the world is cool. The costumes are cool. Like it's a genuinely fun, creative project. A genuinely interesting story.
Yes.
It's just got a few warts.
It does. It does indeed. It could use some Stardust, shall we say. But yeah, that's it for this week. Thanks everybody. Any other closing? Oh, you said it's a whale as well?
It's a whale.
Okay, cool.
For me, absolutely. I'm never not gonna love this movie.
Awesome. 'Tis a whale. On to the next. Bye.